Want to speed up your language learning? Get access to all of our best PDF cheat sheets for free. Just click the link in the description and sign up for your free lifetime account right now. Hi everybody, welcome back to Ask Alisha, the weekly series where you ask me questions and I answer them. Maybe. Let's get to your first question this week. First question this week comes from Ninad. Hi Ninad, I hope I said your name correctly. Ninad says, what does clocks mean here? Before anyone clocks my chopper. Oh, super great question. So clocks. This has a couple of different meanings. We'll talk about this first one that we saw in your example sentence, and then we'll talk about a second use of clocks as a verb here. So clock as a noun, of course, is the thing that we use to tell time. But as a verb, it has a totally different meaning. So don't think about time at all with this answer. So first, let's look at the example sentence that you provided. Before anyone clocks my chopper. So chopper is another way to say helicopter. But clocks here means impacts or runs into or hits or damages in some way. So we can sometimes use this word in like fight situations. For example, if we want to talk about a fist fight between two people, we might say, one guy clocked the other guy, which means punched the other guy. Usually it refers to a punch, some kind of impact in some way. So we use clocks in this way to mean he punched the other person. You might also hear people using clock in this kind of situation that you've described here. Clocks my chopper, which means impacts or hits my chopper or hits my vehicle in some way. He clocked me. You might hear this used in like a car accident situation to talk about the impact of two vehicles. So the reason that we use clock instead of like impact is because clock sounds a lot more casual and kind of rough, and it sounds kind of more like a word we would use in like a fight situation. So there's a little bit of kind of an aggressive feel of this too. So if you wanted to talk about a car accident in kind of a casual, rough way, like maybe if you're describing an experience to a friend or to a family member and not to, for example, the police, you would maybe choose to use the word clock, like, the other car clocked me out of nowhere. That sounds like you were impacted in a very surprising way and that it was kind of aggressive or it was a very like shocking moment. So clock can be used in this way to talk about hits and impacts and damages in fights and in other accident kind of situations. So this is one use of clock as a verb. I want to talk about one more use of clock as a verb, and that is when we're talking about like racing scenarios in lots of cases. So you might hear clock used in a situation like this. We clocked him at 60 miles an hour. So this use of clock means tracked someone's speed or tracked someone's time. So when you clock a vehicle, usually there's some kind of number that comes along with this meaning. So in my example sentence, we clocked him at 60 miles an hour. That means the pace of the car was traveling at 60 miles an hour, or the pace of the vehicle was traveling at 60 miles an hour. So when you hear clock used with a number, usually this is what happens with this pattern, it means that's the pace or that's the time that we tracked someone moving at. So here's another example. So for this example, let's talk about a runner, someone running in a marathon or someone running in a running event. If you want to describe that person's time, you might use the verb clock to do it. For example, Usain Bolt was clocked at 1 minute 30 seconds for the race. So that means that was the time that was recorded. If it helps you, you can think of this use of clock as having some relationship to an actual clock in that you use the clock to understand how much time has passed or the speed of someone's travels or whatever that might be. But this use of clock is usually used to talk about pace, to talk about the speed of something, and we typically use it with a number. So that's a quick way that you can figure out, is this a hit, an impact clock, or is this a pace clock? Usually the pace and the time one will have some kind of number along with it. Usually when you talk about an impact, there's not a number. Maybe you might hear somebody say, he clocked my car at 60 miles an hour. And in that case, it might be kind of ambiguous and you might need to ask a follow-up question. In that case, even a native speaker would ask a follow-up question. They might say, wait, do you mean he was traveling at 60 miles an hour or his car hit you and he was going at 60 miles an hour? Like you might need to clarify a little bit, and that's totally natural. But I hope that this answer helps you understand the different uses of clock as a verb. To recap, we have impact, to clock, meaning something impacts something else. And we also have clock, meaning to record the time or to record the speed of someone else's movement or someone else's travel. So thanks very much for this interesting question. I hope this answered it. Okay, let's move on to your next question. Next question comes from Vaughn. Hi, Vaughn. Vaughn says, I recently learned the expression to shed light on something. I understand this means to reveal something, but what does shed mean in this expression? I checked the dictionary and it seems this word has many uses. Can you talk about it? Yes, definitely. Okay, so yes, the word shed has a lot of different uses. We have the noun form. The noun form often refers to a small building, a very small building, like you can imagine it slightly bigger than a closet that we usually keep outside of our houses. This is the place where we might store like gardening tools or other kind of home use equipment, stuff that gets dirty easily. We might keep this in a shed. So that's a very, very common noun use of this word. But this expression, to shed light on something, uses shed as a verb, and there are several different uses of shed as a verb. So let's break down a few of the most common ones. First, when we use to shed light on something, as you said in your question, it does mean like to reveal or like to give some kind of clarity to a situation. So one key thing that you can think about with the verb form of shed is that a lot of the meanings of shed as a verb are related to like giving something or taking off something or removing something. So in this case, you can think of to shed light on something as putting light on something. When you put light on a surface, you can see it more clearly, right? So that's kind of one way to think about it. The other uses of shed are closely related to this idea of removing something or revealing something. So let's talk about a couple more. First, to shed is commonly used with animals. So animals, when they lose hair, or for like maybe snakes and other reptiles, when they lose their skin, we use the verb shed to talk about that. We would say, for example, oh, my cat is shedding, which means my cat is losing their hair. Maybe it's getting hot, so the cat is losing their hair. We call this shedding. So they are removing their skin or they are removing their hair. With a snake, for example, you might say, oh, the snake is shedding its skin. So that means it's removing one layer of skin. So to shed with animals means removing like some kind of hair or some kind of skin, something like that. We have a similar application of shed when we talk about humans and kind of like their bacteria and their germs as well. So one application that we see of shed in the news these days is when we hear people talk about shedding virus or shedding some kind of bacteria, shedding something, that means we are giving off some kind of germ or we're giving off some kind of virus or bacteria. So again, it's that same idea of kind of releasing something from your body. So something is coming off of you. In this case, it's germs. So we have this application for humans and we have it for animals. But in both cases, we're talking about giving something off. We also have the meaning of just letting go of something, of throwing something away, kind of, with shed too. So for example, when we say like, I need to shed these things from my life, I need to shed these concepts from my mind, it sounds like you're letting go of something. You're giving that thing to the universe maybe, or you're going to stop thinking about that thing. So we also have this. This use of shed tends to sound a little bit more formal. We might not use this so much in everyday speech, but you might see someone use this in a media situation, like in a movie perhaps, or in a TV show maybe. We don't really use this so much when we talk to our close friends and our close family members, but you may see this use of shed. So the final use of shed that I want to talk about in this video is one that you kind of see sometimes in emotional situations. When we talk about someone crying, we often use the expression to shed tears. So again, we have that same idea of removing something or kind of letting something out, giving something. So in this case, the tears come from our eyes. You can think of the eyes kind of giving us our tears if you want to imagine it that way. But we have this expression to shed tears, which means to cry. So that means referring specifically to the water coming from your eyes. This is another common use of shed. So to recap quickly, as I said before, all of these uses of shed have the common kind of meaning of giving something off or removing something or something kind of being revealed in some way. So I hope that this answers your question about the use of shed in the expression to shed light on, and I hope this answer also helps prepare you for the other uses of shed that you might see here and there. So thanks very much for this interesting question. Let's move on to the next question. Okay, next question comes from Mari. Hi, Mari. Mari says, I know there are some curse words in English people use when they're very angry or upset, and they are rude words. But sometimes I hear people use words like shoot, too. Are these words rude? Are these curse words? How do I use them? Super good question, yeah. So yes, there are many very creative, sometimes curse words or swear words or bad words in English. We have a few different vocabulary words we use to talk about them. Curse words or swear words or bad words. These are the words that, yes, they are rude and we should not use them in polite situations. Don't use swear words at work or when you're meeting like your relatives. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you have a special relationship with your family and it's okay in your family culture to use swear words. That's cool. That's up to you. But generally, yes, swear words are not acceptable in polite situations. However, we do have these kind of substitute swear words. So if you're in a situation where maybe you injure yourself or you make a mistake and you want to kind of express your frustration, but you need to do it in a polite way, we do have these kind of soft curse words. So shoot is one perfect example of this. So regarding whether you can use them or how to use them and so on, these are words that you can use pretty much anywhere. Little kids are taught to use these words to express their frustrations in a polite and soft way too. So it's okay for adults to use them as well. So shoot is one example of this. Another good one is darn, D-A-R-N. So when you make a mistake, people might say, darn. So this is a very, very, very soft way to express frustration or to express that you're feeling upset. So I would say shoot and darn are probably some of the most common ones in American English, and those are probably some of the most popularly taught to kids. Some other examples of sort of soft swear words might be dang it. Dang it. So dang it is D-A-N-G-I-T. Dang it. So again, we use this when we've made a mistake or something has gone wrong. And you might often hear people using this kind of snap sound along with that too. Dang it, I messed that up. Or dang it, I didn't do that correctly. Whatever that might be. So that's another common one. So you could put darn and dang it together to get darn it as well. So you might have heard that in like a cowboy movie somewhere along the line too. That's another one that you might hear in media from time to time. So each person kind of chooses whichever sorts of soft curse words they feel are the most appropriate, or sometimes we just make up something in the moment that sounds kind of funny. So some other common ones that you might hear are people using the word fudge to mean that they've made a mistake. They can use this as a verb, like, I fudged this. Or you might use it as an exclamation, like, fudge, I messed it up. Fudge is a type of chocolate. So this is a pretty soft kind of curse word. So you might hear that. You might also hear people using the pattern son of a something. So this word in an official curse word ends with a very rude word. But some people like to use some kind of crazy word at the end of this expression. So one that you might hear sometimes is son of a gun. That's a good one. Or you might hear people say like son of a beeswax or something kind of weird. They might create something totally original. You can do that with curse words. If you want to just make something up, that's fine to do. I have a friend who says like son of a biscuit, I think. So you can make up kind of whatever you feel like expresses yourself in that moment and just choose like a really soft word to kind of express your frustrations. But the point is here, there are a few swear words that are kind of soft. So shoot, darn, dang it, fudge, darn it, these kinds of things. And son of a plus a kind of soft word. These sorts of things express our frustration and they kind of tell the other people around us, I'm aware I made a mistake, or I really hurt myself, something like that. So you can use these to express those frustrations and you will not be considered rude for doing that. These are much, much better choices than using a very rude swear word. But of course, if you are in a situation where you hurt yourself, you can just use ow or ugh or ugh. Those kinds of sounds are totally fine. Don't worry about choosing a word. Most of us just go when we hurt ourselves. So you can do the same thing too. You don't need to think of a specific vocabulary word unless you want to. So I hope this answers your question about these kind of soft swear words. I hope that you enjoy choosing some and finding some creative new ones for yourself. All right, that is everything that I have for this lesson. Thanks very much for watching this video. Of course, if you have questions for me, make sure to send them to me at EnglishClass101.com/ask-Alisha. There is also a link in the YouTube description for this, so check that out and send them to me there too. If you like this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Also, check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. Thanks very much for watching this week's episode of Ask Alisha, and I will see you again next time. Bye!